make the EM in the third div element white and 20 pixel font. So that's this EM right here, Cronut skateboard. If you don't know what Cronut is, it's very delicious, maybe overrated, definitely overpriced. Pastry out of New York City. It is a donut and a croissant. So definitely at home inside of the hipster Ipsum vocabulary here. And we're going to take that EM and we're going to make it white and 20 pixels font. So just like before, we need to select the third div, 3, and then just the EM inside. And this will select all EMs, and it just happens that there's only one. But if there were more than one, we might want to say EM first of type, or EM instead of a paragraph. But I'll just leave it as this for now. And we want to give it white color and 20 pixel font. So color white and font size 20 pixel. And just to remind you, we are going to spend time talking about fonts and font size and a bunch of other things in future videos. There we go. It's white and the font size changes. So now we're on to some of the bonus exercises, which are some of my favorite. They're some of the more obscure, the more interesting ways of selecting things and manipulating them. So to start, let's look at making all checked checkboxes have a left margin of 50 pixels. And I gave this to you. You need to use margin left 50 pixels. So there's a selector to select if elements that are checked. And it just looks like this. It's a pseudo selector, just like nth of type. So we need to say what we're looking for that's been checked. So I'm just going to say all inputs that have been checked, because remember that checkboxes are input type equals checkbox. There are other elements that can be checked though, mainly the radio button. So this would also select any radio buttons that have been checked. And that's fine for now. So it looks like this, input, colon, checked. And what we want to do is to use margin left 50 pixels. So this is a little preview of what we're coming up on in some of the future videos. When we add this in, it's going to add some space on the left side of the checkbox. So you can see the ones that are checked moved over. And if I check this one, now this is checked and it moves over to the right 50 pixels. If I uncheck them, they move back over to the left. So that's checked. The next one, this is probably my favorite, make the label elements all uppercase without changing the HTML. So I mentioned you'll definitely want to look that one up, and that's because we definitely haven't gone over this. So to start, let's just select all label elements, and then let's say that I don't know how to make them uppercase without changing the HTML. So let's pull open Google and do a search, and this is something that I definitely have done before. So let's go up and do a search, CSS uppercase. You can see the first thing that pops up is text transform. In text transform, it says it specifies how to capitalize an element's text. It can be used to make text appear in all uppercase or all lowercase, or with each word capitalized. So then we scroll down and take a look at the syntax, and it looks like we have capitalize, which will capitalize the first letter, uppercase and lowercase. So we want uppercase. So text transform uppercase. And what I just did there was not just to show you something. It's actually something that I do all the time, which is looking things up, going to Google, typing CSS, blah, 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 CSS uppercase, CSS transparent, whatever I'm looking to do. And I just look at the search results because there are so many properties to recall, you cannot remember all of them. So this is one of the more obscure ones, definitely. And if we refresh, this is for labels, which are down here. So let me just get rid of that, just to show you one more time. These are the labels, and when we add this in and refresh, they are uppercased. So next up, we have make the first letter of the element with ID special, green, and 100 pixel font size. So to target the first letter, that's another one that we might want to look up. CSS first letter. and see what we get. So it looks like there's another pseudo selector. The first letter CSS element selects the first letter of the first line of a block. So if we take a look at an example, first letter, let's go ahead and try that. We want to first select the ID special and then first letter of that. And we want to make it green and 100 pixels in font size. So color, green, and font size 100 pixels. Save, and that element is right here, so keep an eye on the first letter. We refresh and we get this giant green eye. Next one, make the H1 element's color change to blue when hovered over. So this one is actually pretty common to have some sort of effect when you hover over something. Usually it's pretty subtle, maybe a button that you hover over it and there's a small shadow that appears, or the color shifts very slightly to look like some sort of 3D perspective or something to give you just a little bit of interactivity without being distracting. So we're going to select the H1, and this actually is all H1s, but in this case there's only one, and the pseudo selector is hover. And whatever we put in here is only applied when a user hovers over the element. So color blue, we save. Here's our H1. And if I hover, it turns blue. When I stop hovering, it goes back to whatever it had before. So finally, make the A elements that have been visited gray. And as you can see, the two A elements, these two links, are actually both links to Facebook, which are links that I've visited before, which is why they're purple. Chrome by default will make all visited links purple. So let's put a link that I definitely haven't been to before. I'm just going to make something up to start. And I'll show you, I refresh the page, it's now blue because I haven't been there. So let's leave it that way for now. I'm not going to click it. And we want the visited ones to be purple rather than, we want the visited ones to be gray rather than purple. So we select A tags. The pseudo selector is called visited. And then we're going to make it gray. Save. And if we refresh, keep your eye on this one here. I'll make the font a little bigger. It's currently purple because I've been there before. I refresh, now it's gray. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that exercise. There's a lot to unpack there, a lot of different selectors. And one thing I'll add is that for every solution that I have, or almost every single one, there are at least one or two more ways of achieving the exact same outcome. So if you had something that differed from me but still worked, that's great. Feel free to add it in the comments, share it with other people. It's totally valid. This is just the way that I would have done it. One other thing, obviously the site is not particularly attractive. This is not a real site. We will be working on a real project very, very soon. In the next exercise video, we're actually going to make a little blog site that is a little bit better designed. It looks much nicer than this. This is more just a practice exercise.